Big Stan opens with a man named Stan Minton speaking with an elderly woman, attempting to give her an affordable investment property. The old woman objected to the property price offered, which sparked an altercation between the two. The woman claimed it was quite pricey because it was in a slum area. Stan attempted to persuade the elderly woman, and just as they struck an accord, the cops stormed Stan's office. Stan was taken to the police station for fraud when it was discovered that he had fooled the elderly with bogus investments. In brief, Stan goes to trial. His lawyer, Mal, refuses to bribe the judge in order to get him released from prison. He then fires Mal and hires a new dishonest lawyer, Popper. Popper persuaded the judge to decrease Stan's prison sentence, resulting in a 3-year sentence with a 6-month suspension. Popper then encourages Stan to flee overseas, but he refuses because all of his assets have been frozen, and he does not want to leave them behind. Stan's wife, Mindy, persuades him to have children soon, but Stan refuses because he considers it a hassle. Mindy left her spouse because he rejected her. Stan, fed up with his troubles, goes to a bar and pays an ex-convict to join him and tell him about the atmosphere in prison. The individuals stated that prison is a dreadful place where other convicts humiliate and harass each other, and that the prison officers appear to tolerate it. After learning about the jail scenario, Stan employs a variety of strategies to avoid being tormented and harassed while there. He attempted to make himself look stocky and muscular using steroid injections, but was unsuccessful. One day, while training at one of the karate dojos, he seemed disappointed with the portions and repetitive movements of the workouts, which bored him because he believed he was making no progress. He then challenges one of the dojo's students to a fight, but is quickly knocked down. Stan, enraged by his setback, attacked back and brutalized the pupil. As a result, he was removed from the dojo for committing a vicious assault. Stan then meets an elderly man outside the dojo who can easily destroy a stone wall with a single mild stroke. Finally, he requested the old guy to teach him martial arts, promising to compensate him after he received all of the money back. Stan then invites the elderly guy to remain at his home, introducing him to Mindy as the master. After some time together, Mindy became uncomfortable in the master's presence due to his sloppy lifestyle and smoking habit. Stan, on the other hand, was not only taught martial arts by the master, but he was also required to follow discipline and diet in order to gain stamina. Stan, who was increasingly focused on his training, began to ignore Mindy till she became lonely and eventually left him because she believed Stan no longer cared for her. Stan tries to persuade his wife to stay, but she insisted on leaving. Stan continues to practice with the master despite the fact that Mindy is not present. After a series of strenuous physical exercises, he was able to learn the martial arts taught by the learn. To celebrate his accomplishments, he invites the master and Popper to dinner at a restaurant, where the master informs Stan that he is the second pupil he has mentored. The master hopes Stan never meets his first student, since he utilizes the martial skills he taught him for evil. After dinner, Stan plans to put his martial arts talents to the test by taking on Master Chu, the owner of the karate studio, who had kicked him out. Master Chu accepts the challenge and battles beside him. Stan, who has become a martial arts specialist as a result of the master's upbringing and rigorous training, can overcome Master Chu. Stan, now more confident, surrenders himself to the police to fulfill his sentence. The master and Popper led him, while Mindy watched her husband depart from a distance, tears in her eyes. The image then transitions to scores of inmates on a bus bound for prison. An inmate attempts to harass Stan while he is still on the way to his destination, but Stan punches him and warns him not to bother him again. When Stan arrives to the prison, he is sent to a cell alongside an elderly guy named Larry Shorts. He then asks Larry about the prison's situation and the prisoners that stand out for their fortitude. While there in the field, Larry shows Stan numerous prison gangs, including the Black Gang commanded by Clean, the Mexican Gang led by Juanito, and the Nazi group led by Patterson. Big Raymond, the roughest prisoner, is also known for intimidating and harassing the new prisoners. The enormous man appears to be going to rape Robbie, one of the new inmates who is sent to prison alongside Stan. Because Big Raymond is regarded as the toughest of the inmates, Stan challenges him to a battle, which he easily wins. After defeating Big Raymond, Stan causes issues with the Nazi and Black gangs, challenging them all to a battle. Despite the fact that the inmates band together to attack Stan, he can defeat them all on his own. Unbeknownst to Stan and the others, Francis Gask, a jail warden, is seen watching him from his office and appears to be preparing something involving him. Stan had defeated the gang leaders and Big Raymond, so all the inmates were afraid of him. Robbie then approaches Stan and expresses gratitude for his assistance. Stan tries to acclimate to life in prison by making weapons out of improvised materials for self-defense. The jail warden summons Stan one day to his office to meet with Gask. He went to the warden's office, and the elderly guy gave him cigars and liquor. Gask emphasized his wish to use the jail site, which is a strategically important real estate sector with a high selling price. He wants Stan to assist him because Stan is known to have extensive knowledge in the property industry. Gask offers Stan a reduced prison term and early parole, which Stan accepts. The movie then cuts to the mood in the prison lavatory, where Patterson attempts to attack Stan while he is washing. However, Stan successfully thwarted the action with his improvised self-defense weapon. Stan then began to study the prison and the inmates from a distance, where fights and small disturbances occurred on a daily basis. While in Gask's office verifying the accuracy of property records, Stan is contacted by Gask, who introduces him to a man named Dang, who works with him on real estate projects. Stan discovers that Dang is a mafia member due to the tattoo on his hand. Stan then informs Gask that certain provisions in the cooperation deal he and Dang signed do not benefit him. Hearing this, Dang begins to see Stan as a threat to his intentions to benefit handsomely from the real estate project. The next day, Stan called Popper and inquired about his wife's divorce proceedings, but Popper claimed Mundy had not filed for divorce from him. After receiving a call from Stan, Popper is contacted by Dang and his crew, who beat the elderly man. Stan, on the other hand, misses his wife and decides to write a letter to Mindy, who has returned to his home and is now living with the master. Stan adjusted well to his new surroundings after being imprisoned for months. Stan, who was already well known among the inmates, made the decision to modify the institution. He gathers the detainees in one location and seizes all of their property, including violent components. He encourages everyone to participate in good, pleasant activities that can be done together. He also prevents bullying and harassment and assists Big Raymond in finding a partner so that he will no longer harm prisoners arbitrarily. While Stan was eating in the cafeteria, Robbie and his two friends came in and offered to join his group since they had been affected by his motivating speech on the field. Following that, many other inmates sought to join his organization. Larry, on the other hand, provides Stan a reply letter in which Mundy expresses a desire to meet him in prison. Stan stimulates the inmates, and the situation in jail improves over time. There's no more war or mayhem. The prisoners get along with each other. Stan finally meets Mindy after a lengthy absence and reconciles with his wife. Gask became restless as the situation in prison became more tranquil, and he asked Stan to meet him in the office right away. Gask expresses fear about Stan after seeing the pleasant atmosphere of the prison, which may upset his intentions. Apparently, Gask intended to make such a mess in the prison that the prison board would issue an order to execute all of the convicts. This would set the stage for his ambition to convert the jail grounds into real estate. But because Stan has brought peace to the prison, Gask's scheme is in risk of collapsing, and the old man threatens Stan that if he returns to anarchy, Dang would beat him to death. When Stan talks with Popper, his lawyer advises him to think for himself and comply with Gask's request for an early release. After much deliberation, Stan reluctantly agreed to the warden's request and resumed wreaking havoc in prison. Stan anticipated Gask would create a big mess when the prison board arrived, so he urged Larry to stay in the cell and not walk out into the field because he was concerned about the elderly man's safety. However, Larry, who knew something was wrong, warned the prisoners and devised a strategy with them. The scheduled day has arrived. Prison council members have come at the location to conduct routine inspections. The prison guards have been outfitted with a variety of gadgets to keep order among the prisoners who are going to make a tremendous mess. Stan, on the other hand, was working with the prison council to secure the release that Gask had granted him. Stan, on the other hand, changes his mind at the last minute because he cannot bear the thought of his fellow prisoners being shot dead by the jail guards. He purposefully halts his acquittal and runs back to avoid mayhem. As the inmates enter the field, Stan is stopped by Dang and forced to fight him because he has thrown off Dang and Gask's preparations. Dang is the master's first disciple, therefore he appears to have martial abilities comparable to Stan's. The two fight fiercely, but Stan eventually defeats Dang and quickly catches up with Gask to end the carnage. Stan urges the inmates not to fight, but is stopped by the prison guards. On the other side, the convicts assembled in the field carried out the strategy they had devised with Larry. Instead of fighting, the inmates dance together, preventing the guards from shooting because the action was not a breach. Gask became irritated and stole a gun from one of the prison guards before opening fire on the detainees in front of the prison council, who was also present. Just before Gask is about to shoot Stan, Mindy intervenes. It came out that his wife and the master had sneaked into the prison and discovered the chaos. 3 years later, Stan is finally released from the jail, which is now managed by the new warden. Meanwhile, Gask, who is now an inmate at the prison, is seen in Big Raymond's custody. Popper, Stan's dishonest lawyer, has also become a new inmate there. Mindy the Master and Mindy Jr. accompany Stan on his release from prison. The movie concludes,